Okay, everyone. So happy Wednesday. Welcome to our November 9th ECBC. We're really excited to all be here again. As you saw, Emily put the link to the PowerPoint in the chat. It is also saved on our ECBC drive, should you need that. And if it is not accessible for you, let us know or email us, and we will make sure we can get you an accessible copy. Sometimes it's not accessible for everyone. So we're excited. All right. We have a nice agenda for you guys today. So we are going to go through some introductory information. We're going to talk through the ECBC workbook, which is in the Google Drive. Then we'll dive more into our transition framework. You guys gave us feedback last time, so we'll talk about that. We want to give feedback on that, and we would love for you to share your feedback on you using the framework so far, talk about what is new, and then continue through our youth planning process. And like we said last time, today our focus will be on step 1, building that team. And then we'll go through next steps. All right. So one thing we're going to focus on today is the students' team and what makes that team successful. And the ways that, oopsie, are we okay?
I'm getting out of there so Anne can share her screen.
Oh, okay. So sorry. And so the ways that the transition framework and the youth in transition toolkit can support all of us on here in supporting and working together to support our youth. And so to get going on this, we want to have some involvement from you, and we'd love to hear from ideas from you guys. And Anne, I think, is putting a link in the chat here, or going to put a link in the chat. And the poll or the question is around what makes a successful team. And so if you think of your own teams and think of different interagency teams that you're a part of, and what makes that team so successful. So we would love to hear from you on that. So I'll hand it over to you, Anne.
Thank you, Lindsay. So yes, I put the link in the chat, and all you have to do is just click on that link, and you should be able to have a little box that opens up where you can put your answer and submit that. One thing we're adding for a little bit of feature for fun is after you submit your answer, you can put in multiple answers. So feel free to keep doing that. But if you scroll down, you'll be able to like some of the other answers that you think you kind of agree with. So I'm going to try to share my screen to show how some of this is coming up. Oh, everybody's already got the light down. Nice job, everybody.
Well, this is fun.
So, and again, as you enter, you can put in multiple. You can kind of see yours submitted, and then if you see the scrolling down, there's where you can see likes, and you just click on those hearts to like things. Nice, everybody. So we've got a lot of ongoing communication. Everybody contributes, varying perspectives, active engagement, cooperation, shared understanding. Nice. Transparency. Listening to everyone's ideas, teamwork, honesty, common goals, confidentiality, safe to share things. Excellent. I know we're getting a lot all over here. Agendas. Ooh, yep, that structure does help a lot of the time too. That's really important. I think we have a little bit of open communication, organization. Yeah, so we're getting, I'm sure the list gets long with everybody. I know we have some hearts coming in where people are getting 3 and 4s, but might be because they're at the top of the list. Assuming positive intention, love that. That's a great one too. All of these are great. It's a nice one to throw out there. Trust. Fantastic. Oh, yes. Everybody's getting to the likes now. Clear and concise goals. I'm trying to see if there's some new ones coming through. Supportive,
Allowing
versatile.
all members to have a voice seems to be the biggest so far.
Yeah. So keep entering those in. One thing we thought we'd do just for fun is to do a flip word cloud out of this and see what happens, to see what words kind of show up as you're entering some of those likes. So let's see what happens when it turns it into. There you go.
Oh, wow.
A lot moving around here. And it's going to be constantly moving, but we'll try to get a final review of this. But thank you so much for doing it. A lot of great information. Hope everybody liked just a little fun thing to add some likes to where you want to go with this. And we'll share it afterwards so you have the final document. So I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Anne. That was amazing. And I feel like just overall, we saw communication, right? Like we saw communication as the biggest word in the word cloud. And then we also saw everyone having a voice as one of the biggest ones too. And I think that's so key to hear from everyone. So thank you for that. Okay. So next we just wanted to go through some reminders. We know some of you, this might be your first meeting today. And that's great. We love having you. Know that if you know people that want to join us, well, we welcome at any time. And if you haven't, watch that 22-minute ECBC video that we sent out in the beginning. You'll have the PowerPoint link there and the video. We have the link up, and all of these are also up in our ECBC Google Drive link at the bottom of the screen there. And then watch, if you haven't, the October 12th meeting recording, and then we have the PowerPoint link there as well. And again, all of this is in your Google Drive. So then next, we're going to go through our ECBC workbook. So just a reminder, we are doing a couple things. We'll go through all of our steps, but we don't want to lose sight of our 3-step process, which is in our workbook. So that first part of solidifying your community team and setting those monthly meetings. And you can put those monthly meeting dates and times on your community tab in the workbook. Okay, so Laura, we will make sure to get you access to that. That might be, I was out Monday and Tuesday, so your access request might be in my email. So I will get you that. And then in the number 2, enter that enrollment data and create your team employment goal. And then that third one, tracking your goals in the student data tracker tab. So just those 3 tabs. And we are tracking that data for Olmsted. So we are hoping and relying on you guys to help us out there with that data. And we need you. So then speaking of our data, we are going to go and open up our spreadsheet that we have, and we will do this each session of looking at our goals and our progress. So we keep track of, Alyssa and I every month go in and put your data that you put in that student tracker tab. So again, we need you. And we're just tracking how you are on that progress. And so we do have some of our teams already who have entered and potentially achieved their goal. So we know we have Detroit Lakes in there. Looks like Alexandria, you have partial in there. And then we have our Hopkins, St. Louis Park team who's entered, and District 280, Intermediate District 287. So thank you guys. And we're not trying to like say shame to anybody else. We just want to draw our attention to this, that we need you and we need your help to fill this out. It's super easy. You can bring it up at your monthly meetings that you have, which you would document on that community members tab. And you would be able to highlight where you're having that meeting. So then we're going to go into one workbook just to kind of show you where you're going to enter all this, or a reminder for some and might be new for others. So when we get there, we'll go, oh, perfect. Okay, so we're going to pull up Detroit Lakes here, and we'll hear from them a little later. So here we have the community tab, community team members tab. So you'll see here they filled out who their team lead is, when their monthly meeting time and date is, and also all of their team members, who they're with, their position, their email, and their contact information. This is so helpful. We do use these workbooks, and the other piece that you guys can use the workbooks as well. So if you know there's a neighboring district team, reach out to them. You can build your own community partnerships as well. And here's contact information too, because you can go in. But just make sure when you're making updates, you're in your own workbook. Then we have the student tracker tab. So you'll see we simplified it, as we said before. So you're entering that first data point of those who are ages 18 through 21 and your goal, and then your progress to date. So you would update that every month when you meet. And then the second one of how many have that primary of a DCD disability category. So you're going to put your goal and then your progress to date. Then if you scroll down, this is where you can enter student information, interagency partnerships, who they're connected with, the information. And remember, we want this workbook to be for you. So if you want to change or add anything, please feel free. Just we ask that you don't put any identifiable data on there. Okay, thanks, Alyssa. What a good navigator. All right, so now we're going to get into our work around the transition framework. Are there any questions around the workbook piece before we dive into and switch our focus a little?
There were a couple of questions in the chat.
Oh.
First of all, some people, again, were having trouble accessing Google Drive. So could one of our other team members put the link to the ECBC Drive into the chat? And if you have not accessed it before, and if you go, the first time you go to access it, we get an email that alerts us, and then we give you access. So just go into the link that someone will be putting into the chat here, and if you don't have access right away, we'll give it to you. And if you have any other troubles beyond that, let us know. And Megan, you said you tried to access it 2 days ago. I never got an email for you, so maybe we'll have to do something offline for you, Megan. Another question was from Julie. You are only tracking students in transition programs, not high school, correct? So the answer is yes. In terms of on that student tracker and the numbers we're asking you for, it is students, and that's where, if you go back to that 22-minute video at the beginning, you can look at the PowerPoint there. We define the students we're tracking are students who are in 18 to 21 transition programming. Now, there's a caveat. You might on your team be also wanting to track students in 9th through 12th typical high school programming, and that's fine, but maybe put a different column or something in your spreadsheet. If you need help with that, let us know. So that you definitely are encouraged to do other tracking, but for our purposes and what we need to submit to the Olmsted subcommittee is on students in 18 to 21 transition programming. Other questions?
Is there any step that Carol? Yeah.
Is there any step that needs to happen to ensure our team is invited to ongoing statewide meetings, Google Drive, other than adding people on our team tab?
So if you're referring to ECBC, we did send out all the links and invites. Is that what you're referring to, Carol?
I would say make sure that everyone on your team is getting all the emails and forward that to them. And if they're not, make sure that you alert us. But yes, that is something else too that Lindsay and I will be doing, is going into the workbooks and making sure everyone's in our listserv as well. But it's always good to double check.
Okay.
Okay.
So, okay. I just feel like I want to address Renata's question and then we'll move on. So is the tracker only for students with cognitive and developmental disabilities? For the Olmsted purposes, that's what we are reporting on, our students with developmental cognitive disabilities. However, like Alyssa had said previously, the tool is for you, so anybody can track any disability. We do recommend you track all disabilities. The reporting one is for DCD.
Well, on our tracker, we have two things. Number one is all students in 18 to 21. Or two is of those who are the students with developmental cognitive disabilities. So if you look on the tracker, there's number one and number two. So
yeah,
it's yes.
yeah. So I think it might make sense joining a team, Renata. It might, if you wanted to, I'm sure we could connect you with a team offline. Okay, so we'll keep going. So we said last time that we're going to ask for feedback at the beginning of each meeting. And this is where we're tweaking things as we go. And so we're going to put the link in the chat, and we will give you 5 minutes to complete that individually. So thinking about every month, we'll ask you, how did you use the toolkit? Sharing your experience and navigating around the toolkit to find what you need. Overall, what do you like best? And overall, what needs improvement? And then what additional training do you feel you need to use the toolkit? So we're gonna, I think, put that link in the chat and provide some time right now. Thank you, to complete the survey. So we'll give you 5 minutes. So if you want to come back at 1:22. us back. It's 1:22. 5 minutes is a long time when you're waiting. So thank you for everyone for filling it out. And we'd love to hear from you. So would anyone volunteer to raise their hand or come off mute to share your experience so far with using the Minnesota Transition Framework and any other resources within the Youth and Transition Toolkit last month?
I can share, Lindsay.
Thanks, Abby.
I primarily use the toolkit to access my vault with the students. And I partnered and worked closely with our CREATS person through Voc Rehab. So I would kind of take care of the paperwork piece of the students uploading their personal information, their resume, any interest inventories that they did, or if they participated and went through our PAYS lab. So I would take care of that piece. And then when she would meet with the students, she would work with them to access and their benefits piece and figuring out that end. And so that they kind of worked with both of us to access both pieces of information in my vault. So
Nice. Oh, I love that interagency collaboration piece and using one tool to do that. Great
yeah,
example.
it's been great. And the students have really liked the fact that they have control, like who they can share it with.
Yeah.
So they like to build their address book.
Oh, I love that. That is all nice.
So yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else willing to share? Right. Well, we'll keep going.
Lindsay, I can share
Oh,
something.
Ellen. All right. Thank you.
So I just have to be honest that the name, calling it the toolkit, kind of threw me for a loop.
Oh,
And I was
sure.
honest in my survey that I didn't know what you were talking about.
Oh, okay.
So in using the Disability Hub website and the tools on there, we have been enjoying using the trajectories from the Charting Your Life courses tool. So
Great. Thanks, Ellen. So some of those person-centered planning tools. Okay, so we'll keep going. Just a reminder, each month we would love to hear from you. So think about this next month when you're using the Minnesota Transition Framework. We'd love to hear how you've used it because we learn from others the best. So then talking about our October exit ticket, we learn from you, as I said, and we ebb and flow based on your feedback. So we really wanted to summarize some of key points that we heard from you guys from that October exit ticket feedback. So we heard that you enjoyed the overview, lots of information to digest. The presentations, demonstrations, and links to the resources were very helpful. And then we also heard that you wanted the meeting to be shorter and you wanted time to meet with your team. So from hearing from you guys, our meetings going forward will only be 90 minutes, which will leave you that last half hour should you choose to meet in your community teams outside of our ECBC session. So again, keep giving us that feedback. We want to hear from you, good and room for improvement. So thank you. We really appreciate you guys.
Yes, so we'll have an exit ticket again today, so be ready to give us feedback. All right, so this is Alyssa, and I'm gonna go into now what is new within the framework that's in the transition toolkit. We're really excited about some new things that are on there. Number one, if you, and I'll take you onto the site in a little bit, But when you look in Educate Yourself, we now have a new tab under Transition Framework that says About the Framework. So we have the visual for you on there, as well as we contracted with Kevin Kling. For those of you who don't know Kevin Kling, he is a Minnesota celebrity. He is a person with a disability himself, but he's a storyteller and an actor. And we contracted with him to do some work on success stories, or just actually stories. We don't always want to say success, even though they are successful young individuals, but we wanted to have stories of young people with disabilities and their journey to adulthood, their journey through transition. And so one piece that he also did for us, because in a moment I'm going to share with you a little bit more about those stories, he recorded a 6-minute video that is an overview of the transition framework. So Lindsay had sent out the link to that video earlier this week. Some of you may have already gotten a chance to look at it. If we had a little more time, I'd play it, but I'm going to play a different video in a moment. But I definitely recommend that you view that video, and it's something you can share with others if you're telling people at your school or within your agency about what the transition framework is. It's a really nice overview. And so then I'm going to take you to our next slide here. There's another new piece on the toolkit, again within Educate Yourself. We added now on here at number 5 that says hands-on tools. So that's going to be a repository for all kind of the important documents you're going to want to be referring back to, as well as links to the videos that I'm going to share. So for instance, in hands-on tools is the transition and pre-ETS inventory. So it's an easy place to go to find that inventory. We also have a link to My Vault there. So an easy place to go to get what you need to get resources about My Vault. And then again, so we have a section called Share Stories. And actually I'm going to go there right now. Exit out of the PowerPoint here and take us all to the site. So here I am on the main page of the Youth and Transition Toolkit. If you go into Educate Yourself, as I said, number 5 here is hands-on tools. I mentioned that the inventory and My Vault, there's resources, the links to those resources there. And then we have Share Stories. So it's divided into 2 sections. We have topic-based stories. I'll click on there. You'll see 5 different videos that align with kind of our key domains within the Minnesota Transition Framework. So independent living, employment, and post-secondary education and training. We also have one on self-advocacy, which is an important topic within all of those domains, and then one on services and supports. What's really cool about the topical videos is that they can introduce that to like youth and their families when you're saying like to the youth. Let's say you could be in a classroom setting or you could be working one-on-one with them. And if you're going to start talking about, say, independent living, you can share the video to say, okay, this is what we mean by independent living. And what did you think about this video? We're actually the hope is to build out some discussion questions and things like that over time. So we'll keep you updated on that. I'm actually going to share one of these videos in a moment. And then what we have are 14 individual stories. Oops, excuse me, sorry. Well, it's hard to talk and show the screen at the same time. So 14 young people, and we did our best to have it be a diverse group, individuals that are from different parts of the state, individuals with different types of disabilities. So you'll see young people maybe with a vision impairment or a hearing impairment or a physical disability or an invisible disability. So you'll see lots of different scenarios. You'll see that they all took different pathways, different journeys to get where they're at now. And so we're hoping, as you can take the time to view these, that they can be helpful in different conversations that you're having, again, with young people and their families. So we'll talk a little bit more about these as we go, but wanted you to be aware that they're there. They're fun to watch. I am going to share one of the topical videos on self-advocacy. It's a 4-minute video, so it's not very long, but again, I think I wanted to show this one because I think it's a more difficult topic sometimes to explain to young people. And I just liked how well it was summarized in this 4-minute video. So I'll share that right now. Lindsay, you can tell me if the sound is working once it starts.
Good.
Self-advocacy is learning how to speak up for yourself and having the knowledge needed to succeed. It's about participating in the decisions that are being made about your life. The young people in this video describe different environments where they advocated for themselves in work, in school, and with family. They've all learned that becoming an effective self-advocate is about educating the people in their lives and letting others know what they need so they can move forward.
Advocating for yourself takes a lot of courage and practice.
As an advocate, I feel like it's important to have those self-starter skills. And it's okay to make mistakes and then to use those mistakes to learn how to make better decisions in the future.
I think I'd feel pretty confident advocating for myself and even advocating for others as well that have disabilities that would need additional services of any kind.
Advocacy is important. There's a lot of positive and negative experiences and successes and challenges. It's important to advocate for yourself so that people can learn what you need. A lot of people don't know, and they might think, well, it's really not that important, or they might not listen the first time you bring it up, and you have to bring it up again. And there might need to be changes made to the initial accommodation, and it's kind of a work in progress. And it will become easier. As the accommodations are first introduced to the company or people, and as they start working with you, those accommodations will become more and more seamless, and more normal for everyone.
I've had to advocate for double extended time on tests and quizzes, visual instructions, written notes, written copies of instructions for a big assignment or project, a visual of the final product for a large project.
In school, I had to advocate for myself to make sure I was getting all my accommodations I needed.
In college, I had to advocate for myself and my disability and the accommodations I would need by talking with my professors and showing them a visa that the university gave all students with disabilities that were registered, that kind of shows the accommodations that they need.
I do feel supported when I advocate for myself. You know, it started from something as simple as, hey, when we're sending staff emails, can you include image descriptions in your pictures?
And I advocate for myself.
I think it's come naturally.
Yeah.
I really do. She
knows.
Yeah.
When she wants something, I mean, she will correct us now. When we're talking about something, she's like, no, you're not listening to me. And that draws her attention, saying, okay, what do we need to do here? So she's learning that on her own.
When I advocate for myself, my parents support me and whoever I'm talking to supports me.
At the end of the day, advocating for yourself, whether you end up doing it unassisted or with a whole circle of people by your side, do what your heart tells you to do. And if that's what your heart tells you to do, go for it.
You are your own best advocate. Letting people know what you need and want is a skill that you can learn, and it becomes easier the more you do it. It's okay to make mistakes. Soon, you'll identify the people who will support you on your journey, and you'll start making informed and authentic decisions about the things that interest you. People who know how to self-advocate have an important skill that supports lifelong success. As Jose Daniel says, if it's what your heart tells you to do, go for it.
Oh, I love those, and I feel like I've seen them several times. Alyssa, do you mind just kind of walking through where those were again? We had okay. We had a question in the chat. Thanks, Ellen, for that question.
Okay, I'm getting us back to the website. Okay, so when you're on the main page, you can transition toolkit. You go into educate yourself. Hands-on tools is the new section that we have in here. So you can click on hands-on tools, and that's where you'll find it, share stories. They are also linked in different parts of the toolkit. You know, for instance, when self-advocacy is mentioned, it's linked there, when employment. So they are linked in other spots, and we'll be doing other things with them too. So right now they just got in here on our website, so that's where you can find them.
Thanks, Alyssa.
Okay.
And as you're
So,
pulling the
Alyssa-
PowerPoint back up, Ellen, you'll see on the slides too. It
Oh, good. Yeah.
says hands-on tools and share stories there.
Yeah, I'm just not getting that same drop-down menu that she's getting, and I'm not sure why. So I'll figure it out. Thanks.
Somebody else ask a question? Okay, thought I heard someone else say something. Are you hearing me okay, Lindsay?
Perfectly.
All right. Okay, just wanted to send a reminder to all of you to keep sending us feedback as you're going through the toolkit, you know, in the give feedback section is on every page. We're looking through all that feedback, and, you know, this hands-on tool section was actually created based on some of the feedback you gave on, okay, we're having trouble finding some of these primary things. So we're looking at all of that. You know, some of the feedback might be minor tweaks and things like that. Some things might be like a more major idea that you have. Whatever it is, we'd love to get your feedback. So, okay, so now we're going to get into the youth planning process that we introduced last month. As you might recall, again, if you're going on, and this is actually an old screenshot, but if you go into educate yourself, we've got the youth planning process as one of the items in the educate yourself section on there. And as you might recall, there's 6 steps in the youth planning process, and we're going to be going through all 6 steps throughout our ECBC year. It's going to help us all test this framework and the toolkit together. And we also let you know that we're going to hone in on one step at each meeting. So we're at step 1, build the team, in this meeting today. And I just also wanted to remind you that we covered this last time, that we're asking that each ECBC community team select at least 2 students in your 18 to 21 transition programming. So I say at least, we welcome you to work with more, but at least 2 that have interagency partners on their team, and to go through this process with them this year. As we also noted, you don't have to wait till we cover that step in each meeting, but if you feel more comfortable doing it that way, please feel free to go through it one step at a time with them. Before we kind of get into too deeply with it, Lindsay and I last week, we were so lucky. We spent some time in Detroit Lakes with a community team. This community team actually happens to be starting a new project search site, but this team has worked together tremendously for many years and doing all kinds of cool things together. And we know that there are many great teams just like Detroit Lakes, but we asked them, after spending time with them, if they wouldn't mind just saying a little bit about their partnership and how they built their team together. So we have Wendy, Maureen, and Jill, and I'm gonna welcome them to come off mute and just say a few words, introduce yourselves, where you're from, and just talk a little bit about your partnership. And I'm gonna stop sharing while you are talking.
I think this is Maureen. I'm with Vocational Rehabilitation, and it might be just Jill and I today because Wendy is out sick. And so you know, I always say they make it easy. When you have a great group of people you work with, you know, it's not hard to have a great team. And that's part of it. It's, you know, it's a lot about relationships. We've worked together for quite a few years now. And so there's a great deal of consistency. And when new ideas come up, we work with each other to try to understand it and work our magic. And then we say, I can do this if you can do this. And that's really what it's all about. And we found that monthly meetings really do help. It's just a time when we can get together and we might talk about Project Search for a few minutes, and we might talk about ECBC, and then we might talk about something else. But it all interrelates, and it's all about that relationship.
Oh,
So what do you have
Thank
to
you,
add?
So I'll just note that Wendy Fritz is the school representative, and she's the individual that couldn't be here today. So thanks for letting us know. But yes, Jill, why don't you introduce yourself and just say a few words about your partnership?
Sure. I'm Jill Esser, and I am a Rule 185 and Waiver Case Manager for Becker County Human Services. And I've been in this role for about 6 years and have found it just very, very helpful to be partnering with folk rehab, partnering with the schools. I think probably what I find most helpful is just really understanding from the family and the kids' perspective what's happening for them in different environments. And so really making the time to be at not just collaboration meetings with the other professionals, but making the time to be at their IEP meetings, making the time to look over the documents from the school has been really helpful. And I think that, you know, the partners that I work with really appreciate that I have the knowledge of the kiddos that way. And we all bring something so important to the table. And when we meet as often as we do, and we collaborate the way that we do, we get to learn more about each other's programs, which are all very confusing in their own right, and helps us serve, you know, the families better. So.
Oh, I feel like we could feel your energy. We could feel the level of expertise that you guys brought to the table in terms of your roles and how you work together. Maureen, I think you spoke to it, that collaborative effort. You guys talk about everything. You're so interconnected, and it was just a beautiful thing to be in person to feel. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. You know, I am struck by, you know, obviously when you get to greater Minnesota and our smaller communities, it might, you know each other better. And I know it gets harder in our larger counties where there's a lot more people to collaborate with. But I just think finding that way, you know, at least at that student level, how everyone can be communicating. I loved when you said, Jill, like you're really making sure you're coming to all those IEP meetings and connecting the dots between what you're providing under waiver case management services and what's happening at the school and with DRS. So it was just cool. I was like, this is ECBC in action. So thank you all for sharing today.
You bet. Thank you.
I'm going to share screen again. So again, so this month we're talking about build a team. We shared the slide last month of what we're talking about when we're saying in terms of thinking of the transition framework, what building the team is all about. And so what we want to see, like just this way that we all can do business is at the beginning of every school year with every student, we're understanding who is on their support team. So if I'm with DRS, I'm saying who is on your team. If I'm with the school, same thing. And making sure we're always considering, you know, who at the school is on the team. You know, do they work with DRS or SSB? And do they have waiver or county case management at the very least? And there's the roles page within the framework. We're gonna talk a little bit about that in a moment. And then making sure that everyone knows about each other and that everyone has each other's contact information, and that's where the vault comes into play. So we're going to talk more about that. So again, the key features of this step are understanding roles, preparing the youth and the family for what transition is about, and then using My Vault. So all team members having an account, and that the youth is supported in getting all those contact information of the students and sharing that. And Abby mentioned that earlier. She was like, Beautiful segue. You're saying that your students really love that, like putting everyone's contact information in there. So that's fun that they find that to be fun. And then they can share that with everybody.
All right.
So I'll
So
hand over to.
Okay, sorry. So we'll dive into talking about the roles next. And so really, back to that example that you were just mentioning, Alyssa, with Abby, I feel like it's empowering our youth, right? And you see on this graphic, we have youth in the center. So all of our roles and our partnership together are going to empower our youth, going to increase their outcomes. And so really the link on the bottom here really goes into what are each of the roles. So thinking about our youth, thinking about our families, our guardians, anyone advocating on their team, different school staff, vocational rehabilitation services, state services for the blind, and then waiver case managers and our service providers. The goal is with our transition framework to bring us all together and strengthen that partnership. We know you guys have great partnerships now. How can we continue to build on that? And then if you think about all of our roles in transition services, kind of defined here, obviously all of us together, we're collaborating together. And then if we kind of go down them of defining, so our youth, they are the ones who are driving their transition plan and what supports do they need. Then thinking of our family's role, how do our families and guardians support our youth so that they can drive their planning and make informed decisions. And then our schools' job is to support the youth through that transition planning on their IEP and their special education eval to drive those needs. And then our BRS SSB, coordinating those pre-employment transition services or other services on that employment plan. And our waiver case managers are the ones that are connecting our youth to the services and supports through their waiver support plan. And then our pre-ed service providers are delivering those pre-employment transition services. So all of us knowing our role, coming together, collaborating on, okay, here's what we can do in our various roles so that we can help our youth, all of this to support our youth. So if we go, oh, thank you. And next we want to talk about preparing the youth and the family. And so really diving in and helping our families and our youth explain that transition process and everyone's role. So that's where we defined and shared that link on the last page. This link of the changing role of parents, it's from Pacer. It's an outstanding video. It's just 6 minutes long, but it's something you could share with families on what's their role and how it's changing. And it kind of gives just an overview of how that role is going to change over their time of transition planning. And it gives a little bit of a brief overview of the laws and how they're under IDEA at a certain age, and then they're moving to ADA as an adult. So kind of talking through that. And then we also have used the life trajectory in previous ECBC years. Also wanted to share it again. Obviously, the Charting the Life course has a lot of great tools, but this life trajectory helps that youth and their family understand what does a good life look like for them and how do I get there and what supports do I need along the way and what don't I want. So it's just, again, an easy tool that you have the links to all these right here that you can access. So then if we get into engaging our families, so we just wanted to show this to you of here's something, resources for how we can engage our families in that transition process. So we have the get ready, reaching our families, educating the families, and activating. So there's tools and resources in each of those, but this is another area that you would go into to support our families and different things, and so that they feel knowledgeable and empowered to be a part of that process. Because as we know from the roles, we're all a part of this supporting our youth in transition. Okay, so the next part in talking about building the team, And if we think about the importance of each of our roles, so each of the team members' roles, we wanted to take some time to share and to think about these questions here. And so we know if you're talking to families when you're supporting your youth, it can be confusing. It can be difficult to explain, or it's hard for families to understand. And so we wanted to take time to share out how we might explain something. So for example, these two questions on the screen here, how do you describe roles and the importance of them with youth and families? And what are some examples when you have successfully helped a youth and family bring VRS, SSB, or waivered services staff onto their team? What are some critical success factors? So if we think, I will give you thinking time, so you can, if you guys want to share, how do you describe roles and the importance to the youth and family? And then what are some examples of some successes? So thinking of your different relationships that you have with BRS, SSB, and county, how would you describe that to families? Anyone want to take a stab? There's no judging.
I can again, Lindsay, if you want.
Thank you.
No judging.
No judging.
Well, my immediate thought was the roles and the importance of them with youth and families. Both myself and my coworker here in our program really put it all on the table very bluntly. Like, this is about you. This is what you want. This is you working towards what you want. We are here to provide you opportunities and to put things in front of you, but it's up to you to pick and choose what you're going to do with it. So we really try to put it on them and put them in a position that they're not very comfortable with, student-wise, of having to take ownership of what comes next. It's also very hard for the families too to allow their child to do that. But we try to then talk to parents like, this is a natural progression. This is looking outside of the world of special ed. This is what same age peers are doing in their life. They're looking towards employment for the rest of their life, or they're looking for, moving out. Like, this is a natural progression, and it's okay as a parent to want that, or I've had we have had a very strong relationship with our VRS. So he's at every meeting. We have weekly discussions, not very long, but just here's what they're doing, here's what's coming up, here's what's maybe something they need, or that you guys could talk about, that sort of thing. So and last year I had a student who was new, first year, and he has speech difficulty. So bringing on VRS and realizing they didn't realize that there was support in the employment world for him. So it was very fun to see that, in mom's relief, but there's more, but there's outside support even if and when school stops. So that was fun to see.
I love it, Abby. Thank you. I love too how you talk about in comparison to the same age peers. It's so, our youth really want to be functioning members of society. And so you think of it in those terms. Beautiful, beautiful example.
Thank you.
All right. So I think Carol, I did see your hand up and then it went down. Otherwise, I'm gonna.
No, I'd be happy to share. I mean,
we have a lot of students that have really complex needs. And I think I'm so grateful for the E1MN initiative, but but how to help families wrap their heads around that and look at something different, to expand the ideas of what young people and older people can do throughout their lives, I think is a really complex thing. And I think our practice in the past was to engage VR, like in the last year of transition. I know, don't judge me. I mean, it's just the way we did things. And that's not enough time to develop that more complex model. So I'm really grateful for these tools, because I'm finding that families really need help understanding that things change after school, that it's not just you qualify for service and here you go. It's so.
Thank you, Carol. I love it. Okay, I think then we'll move on to Jenny.
Oh, Lindsay, it looks like Jenny has her hand up. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I was just going to piggyback on what the others said, but I think a critical factor in our success, Nancy mentioned students having goals and getting their input, but I think also communicating with families on how our interagency partnership and the role of a transition program is really to ensure that those are well established, so that when students decide whether it's 1, 2, or 3 years to move on, those linkages are in place, and it can be that smooth, as some parents have called it, an on-ramp to adulthood. But that the more time we can have together, the better articulated plan we can have and the better outcomes we have for students. And I think that's been a really good opportunity to explain to parents who often don't know the complexity of it. And they often will see voc rehab is separate from the school district, but the more we can be around the table and have those stakeholder meetings, I think the better outcomes for everybody.
I love that and couldn't agree more. These are great, you guys. And I love all the ones that have been in the chat as well. Great name for a program. You mean the onboarding? That would be a great name. I think we do have a transition program in Minnesota. Is it Onward or yeah, I think it's Onward. On-ramp to adulthood. That is a great program name. All right, thank you guys. So just thinking about different ways that we can explain and help create a less confusing description for everyone is really our goal. And so that one-stop shop with the Minnesota Transition Framework.
Okay, I think we're going to take a short break right now. We didn't put that in the slide, but we wanted to make sure we gave you a short break because we know we all need them. So we're at 2 o'clock. We're going to get started right away at 2:05. So go ahead and take a break and we'll get started sharply at 2:05.
Wait, I don't understand. So 3 school board members were elected and, oh, Paul Donald was one.
Okay, we're at 2:05. We're going to come back together, and next we have Beth Gruby with us today. We're going to talk about My Vault. I know some of you that have been a part of ECBC for a while, we've covered My Vault before. Please hang on. You know, Beth will go through some of the basics and some of the things related to this step in the youth planning process. But we'll also cover some other things after My Vault and have the exit ticket and get you done here at 2:30. So I'm going to hand it over to Beth to go over some things related to that.
Hi everyone. I'm Beth Gerby from the Department of Human Services. Thanks for being here. And we have, like Alyssa said, we've talked about the vault over and over. Some of you have heard it a lot of times. So we're just going to make sure everybody's kind of grounded and starting on the same page and everybody is aware of the vault and what it is. So Lindsay, if you want to go to Alyssa, sorry, you have the control, right? So just a reminder that the vault is a secure personal account and it can be used by anyone, but it's really created for people with disabilities and those who support them to be able to have a way to explore and do different planning activities and save files, create their contact list so they know who's on their team and can easily communicate with them, and then just really be able to have a way for you all to clearly document all the activities that you do that helps a person lead to that informed choice that we're all making every day. So with the vault, you can really use it to support students. And this is a great list of things. So when we were creating this, we were talking about this is how you should use this. Thinking about why would it be important for youth and families to have access to this? Why would they use it? So and this is the list of things that we came up with. So it's really helpful, and what we've heard from people, from students and from families and from all the professionals. We've heard consistently that it's helpful for the families and for the youth to know who's on their team, who can support them, and who does what. That whole roles thing, it's kind of hard to talk about, like, who does, what is the role of the case manager? What is the role of the school, and who does what? So this can help them do that. Accessing information and plans electronically and storing documents safely was another huge thing. So people with disabilities often, we heard, didn't have a great way to store their information. A lot of times, you know, the plans and the information that's coming to them is on paper, they lose it. And so having this one consistent place for them to be able to access their own information, and then also to just be able to store that there and they can get back to it. And then we've talked a lot about the tools and the activities that are in the toolkit, and the ability for people to be able to go in and plan and do different activities to prepare for work. And then also, what are they going to do after school, right? So also, it's a way for them to be able to easily and securely share information and to store their own information. So a lot of times we at the county level and DHS level anyway, a lot of times the information about the person's benefits or about what they're eligible for, a lot of times they don't understand it or know it. And this is a way to help them be able to have their own information and have access to their resources. And the great thing is it will follow them after high school. So they all have their Google accounts while they're in high school, and then they get done and those are gone. And so this will carry forward. They'll have it forever. So that's a little bit of background and information on My Vault. And I apologize again for all of you who have heard this 12 times. So go in to this link that is here. This is the link that will get you to a page that is specifically about how to use the vault to support people. Gives you some kind of just information and steps about how you can do that. There's also a video there that you can watch, but you can also share that with families. This has really been helpful, we've heard, for families to get them used to the idea of, oh, this is what the vault is and this is how it can be used, and students as well. It's about 3 minutes long. So that is there. And then there are some guides as well at the bottom of the page. It talks to you as a professional about how to create your own professional MyVault account. So hopefully, I think that was in the instructions before the meeting. So understanding how to create it for yourself. And then the guides in there about how to create contacts and store and share files is in there as well. Excuse me. And then how to use MyVault to help plan for work. That goes through the activities that are in the toolkit. And then the last part is kind of more geared toward our E1MN with Voc Rehab and our waiver employment service providers. And then at the bottom of the page, and this is in the PowerPoint as well, are two guides, the guides for helping people. The person themselves can create a MyVault account. So there's up above was for how do you as a professional create your own account? And then this one is how does the student or their family create their own account? And then at the bottom is some frequently asked questions. So we got a lot of different questions related to the vault, and so we stuck them in here. So you can go and take a look at those as well when you get a chance. So,
Beth, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just want to jump in really quick to show people how you get to that same page. Again, we showed this to you earlier, but if you're in Educate Yourself and you go to hands-on tools, MyVault is right there. So everything that she just shared, that site, how to use MyVault to support people, you can click on that there. So just so you know where it is in the Youth in Transition Toolkit.
Thanks. All right, and in your PowerPoint, you will see the how to create MyVault, the samples of the pages that you can share with families. And with youth, so they understand how to create that vault account. And then on the next slide, it gives you a sample of the contacts. So this is the screen that you will see when you go in to create contacts. So that's what we're asking you to do this time. So Lindsay and Alyssa showed you the different steps that we're going to be going through during this ECBC year. And the first one with this is to help the students create their contact list. And I love that, Abby, that you said that they are enjoying doing that. Woo, yay. I think it's a great thing. I mean, just thinking about when I was in high school even, or my kids that are in high school now, if they have a way that they can go and see, here are all the people I need to talk to and who can help me do what, it's very helpful. So the highlighted circled information there is your own contact info. So you as the professional, when you go in and create your own contact list, because you can create a list of students, you can use the vault however you want to in that way, you put your own contact info in first. Same thing for the students. So when they are creating their contact list, the first thing they should do is put in their own contact info. So their name and their email address at a minimum should be entered, and then they go in and save it, and then they can start creating, who is their case manager, who is their VR counselor, maybe they want their parents' contact info in there, just having that where they can go in and then they can choose what they share with whom. So that's the first step that we're asking you to do, and like Lindsay and Alyssa said, identifying at least 2 students. You can do more. If every student you're working with, I have heard some school districts say, yep, we're going to do it with everybody in my class. So helping them have this is a great first step. So, and that's it on the vault. Do you guys have any questions? All right. It'll be exciting to hear how it's being used and how it's, we got a little bit from you, Abby. Thank you for sharing that. And I know, Ellen, you've talked about using it before with a lot of your students, or some of your students anyway. So it's exciting to hear. And like we said before, if there are improvements or if there are suggestions, things, we'd love to hear feedback as well.
I do have to say, for those of you that are new to using MyVault, it is really user-friendly. So if you just take a little bit of time and you go in, as I showed you where you can get the information that we just shared, you'll see and just sit down with one student and go through it together. It's really not that hard, and it will be just a wonderful resource for them and their family. Thank you, Beth. Okay, so we're getting to the point in the meeting. We're going to start talking about next steps for all of you in terms of, we covered a lot of information today, but what we're asking all of you to do in the next month. So with those 2 students or more that you've selected as a team, we're asking you to, first of all, work with them. Make sure that the youth and their family understand transition in the roles that we all play, everyone that's on their team. Ideally, you could do that as a team together, and make sure that you ask them who is on the youth team, and make sure we get the names and the roles and the contact information. Another question could be if they're not working with DRS or SSB or county waiver services, should that be considered in talking with families about that if they're not already on the team? And then help the youth and their family and other team members to set up My Vault accounts, and then help the youth to add contacts into My Vault and share the contacts with the team through My Vault. The next piece, like we shared this slide last time, and we'll share it every month because we are assigning you some content to review each month. So that, at the beginning of this meeting, we asked for your feedback, not only in using the toolkit, but in the content that you review. So the content on the next few slides relate to everything we covered today. So these items are in the toolkit, and we have the links on the slides. So reviewing transition services, which is in Educate Yourself, programs, which is in Educate Yourself, and roles. And then within Engaged Families, communication. And then the second slide here on content to review, we have in the Engaged Families, the transition process for them, the family's role, and resources and supports. Again, we've got the give feedback on every page. Just want to remind you to make sure you're giving us feedback as you're going through all the content and using the toolkit. And finally, as Lindsay talked about earlier, we want to make sure that we're all entering data into your workbook. So make sure you're getting all your team members, you're making sure your lead or leads are identified when you're meeting monthly, and making sure you got those goals and the progress on your goals on the student tracker tab in your workbook. So one more time here, any other questions that anybody has?
Alyssa, this is Ellen.
Yep.
On that enrollment and the goals, no, I can't get back to it. Where'd I go here? On the student tracker page, I guess it is, where you have progress to date. Do you want us to just keep changing that number? Or do you want us to put dates in when we change it so you can see across the months?
We can see when you update. So when you update, we can see that you've made a change.
Okay, so just keep putting it in that same box. Okay, thank you.
And those who have all requested during ECBC today, you all have access. And today's PowerPoint is also up on the drive. And we will share the recording when we have that as well on the drive.
For the 2 students that we're selecting, is that what we're tracking, or are we tracking every student in our transition program?
That's a great question. So you are tracking the students in your transition program. So we're doing a couple things with ECBC. We're testing the Minnesota Transition Framework, which are the activities that Alyssa walked us through of what we want your feedback on, because we're testing this tool this whole year. And one of the strategies with the Minnesota Olmstead Plan is our ECBC work around the data we collect. So that is on all of your individuals who have DCD in your transition program. And we're also collecting all of the individuals with all disabilities because that was feedback you guys had given us in previous years. So great question. You're tracking transition program and you're doing the tool and using that with 2 students or more, but you are tracking data on employment for ECBC. That makes, okay, thanks.
Quick question about MyVault. As we're having students open up their MyVault accounts, add in their team members, and maybe start saving documents in there, if they want to share with their team members, does it get shared through MyVault? If someone didn't have a MyVault account, would they be able to share it to their email or another source, or is it only to be shared through MyVault?
Great question. So yes, if a person has a MyVault account, so the student has a MyVault account and they upload something into MyVault account and they want to share it with anyone in their contact list through MyVault, they can. So what happens is on the receiving end, if the person has a MyVault account, it will come into the MyVault account and they'll get a notification. There's that little bell up in the right-hand corner that will say, hey, you've got something waiting for you in your vault. If they don't have a MyVault account, then it goes to the person's email address, to the regular email. Does that answer your question?
That does. Thank you very much. I'm sure it's more seamless for everyone to have the MyVault account. So we'll try for that, but that's good to know also that it can go through email. Thank you.
Okay. Well, just as a reminder, so the schedule for the remainder of the year, we've got a meeting in December where we're going to go to the next step of the youth planning process where we're identifying strengths and needs. Actually, it's 2 steps that we're going to cover next month. Identify strengths and needs and create plans. And then you'll see what we'll be covering the rest of the year, ECBC year. This slide has all the dates and the times. Lindsay has sent out links. So if you did not get, and you don't have the links, let us know. We've got our contact information on here on this slide. So email any one of us and we'll get that to you. I think, let's see. Okay, so, oh, thanks, Lindsay. She got that in there. So finally, the last thing we're going to do today, like we did last month, because it was really helpful, we're just going to ask that you give us some feedback. We've got a 3-question survey. It's your exit ticket before leaving today. We'll give you some time here in the link or in the chat. Thank you to Emily for everything today. She's been our tech guru and getting all the links into the chat. We have the survey. So if you could just take some time before you're done to complete the survey. And then that would be it for today.
Thank you, everyone. Oh, good idea, Carol.